Yeah, I can.
Okay. This is a dope ass song, man. We should just like fucking ad lib over
I can't hear anything.
it. Can't hear anything?
Not a
I'll tell you what
thing.
it
I
sounds
can
like.
hear
It
you.
sounds like a harsh, dope, rough. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Historical Voices from the East Side Podcast. My name is History Williams, and thank you very much for joining the actual podcast this week. We have an interesting movie to actually talk about. We're talking about the actual recent film Knives Out. But little about me before we get started. Not about me. I'm sorry. A little bit about our actual co-host over here. The guy right over here to that side, that is Jamel Watson. He's our East Side reviewer. He's the guy who does all the movie reviews and scour all through the actual film and theater sections and let us know which ones is pretty hard to watch and which one is a pretty dope. So make sure to give a big shout outs and give a round of applause for that man, Jamel Watson. And then also on top of that, we do have our other co-host. He's going to come in a little bit later. That is going to be JT, the voice. He is our voice of reason. He's our normal wear and tear after we done stripped down a subject and moved it to his bear guy. He gives us all of the guidance to get back to homeostasis, I guess you would say. So still, even if he's not here right now at this point in time, give a round of applause for that boy, JT, the voice. You got to say the whole thing. It's like a Tribe Called Quest. So, Jamel, man, how you feeling today?
Good. Look tired, but I'm good.
We could yo JT, bro, just pop in. When you pop in, you got this. Don't worry about it. We here. We just entertaining the people. Why is that? 10 minutes on the clock. Me and Jamel, we can handle this. So but you've been good, man. So you did have to do an Eastside review. You did talk about this earlier. So we both seen this film, a little bit of it. I couldn't finish it. So I wanted to ask you a question about your Eastside review. We're just gonna sneak this in. Velma just recently came out. It's supposed to be the prequel to all of the Scooby-Doo TV shows and everything that came out. It's one of the first few products by the actual Weapons of Mass Destruction, aka Warner Media Discovery, and it just came out this past week. So I'm going to let you take it away. Let's start off with our actual East Side review a little bit earlier. Jamel, tell us about Velma.
Yeah. All right. So I've actually got two because I do want to highlight a fantastic debut that just recently happened, which is The Last of Us. Now, I know what people are thinking. Oh, they just adopted the game blow for blow, and it's easy to do that. No, it's very easy to mess up a video game adaptation. We've seen many that have been screwed up. But The Last of Us, from the episode that's just dropped, and from every review that's seen the entirety of the series, it might be the best video game adaptation that we've ever had. The Last of Us TV show does what a good adaptation should do. It takes everything that works, which is a lot in The Last of Us, which is the story, the core characters of Ellie, of Joel, of Tess, and the people that we've seen so far, and it expands on the world. There are things that I was curious about in the game that we didn't quite have enough time to explore. And the show not only did that in the first episode, but is going to do that extraordinarily more as the season goes on, particularly once we get to the character of Bill. There is a scene and there's a sequence in the game that is just a note and an image that we see that's expanded into a full-blown episode. And I can't wait to see it because Bill is played by Nick Offerman, and that's about as perfect a casting as you can get for the Bill character. But from episode 1, we learn more about the world. We get more of a connection with Joel, with his daughter Sarah, with his brother Tommy, and it's beautiful. Like, the scenery is beautiful. The sound design, particularly, is done really well, and the heartbreak is there.
Yes.
Like, it's the Last of Us video game, the first one. It is one of my 2 or 3 favorite games of all time because of the story, because of the narrative. And it's one of the few games that I legitimately got emotional at several points. Like, almost, like, pretty much, I can't see him falling down my eyes, but I gotta make the song cry. I ain't gonna cry tears, but goddamn, I was sad as hell. And if you've played The Last of Us, that story is gone right in the gut, right in your emotional gut. It gets you, and the show does it as well. Like, the show, it kicks off, and it's beautifully done. It's great writing, and it's not that difficult to get a video game adaptation right, especially if you bring the person who is the creator of the game, Neil Druckmann. He's the showrunner for The Last of Us. So it's in good hands. It's in steady hands. It's looking like a for sure winner. Episode 1, it's a winner, no doubt. It's 5 out of 5 all day.
Well, before we go on that, I got a question actually though. So one of my things was for that episode was that it is really well put together. It is well done, and I agree. Like, the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game didn't feel like 10 to 15 minutes. It felt like it was like a 45-minute to an hour TV show, because they did such a good job by filling in all that content into that small space. Where the TV show obviously made it a 45-minute hour experience. But the part that I'm specifically talking about, and if you listen to this podcast and you're expecting not to get spoiled, sorry, this is the wrong podcast for you. We're going to talk about that aspect. But the first part is unfortunately the passing of his daughter. That definitely was an emotional part, but I don't think I remember anything about her going to school, how close she was with the neighbors and everything like that. That was not all in context. So
that wasn't in the game. That's what you can do in an adaptation. You can expand the character of Sarah in the game. We get a little bit of her, and it's still emotional when she dies, because you feel the impact on Joel throughout the rest of the game. In the show, we get to know Sarah. We get to know her personality. We get to see more of her relationship with her father. Oh, she does have a relationship with her neighbors. And we do see her, like, we see her more fully realized as a person, and something that the creators of the show said that they wanted to do. They wanted it to be like, all right, we want to set Sarah up so that you're emotionally invested with her, like she's going to be one of the main protagonists of the show.
Agreed.
And then when the thing happens, you're that much more like, God damn, I really like her. And she does a really good job. Nico Parker, the daughter of Thawandi Newton, she did excellent. So yeah, it works. And I think good adaptations do that. You expand on things that may need a little bit more expanding, and you keep the stuff that works. It's not, it's not like it's a science. It's not like it's rocket scientists. You do things that work. And even the very beginning of the show, the little the preamble, set in the 60s, where they're talking about global pandemics, and now after living through COVID, goddamn, that shit hits so much harder, because it's like, well, it doesn't seem like it's so far-fetched anymore, because we've been living through a damn pandemic where, goddamn, where people all over the world have died, and like in America, at least 1 million people have died because of COVID. So it worked for me. That's something that's brilliant that works. But I didn't mean to cut you off. You were making a point.
Oh, no. That was my question, man. Is the fact of like how well they put that together. I felt like when I watched the show, I felt like I got to know his daughter in small little bursts, but it was still so fucking impactful that like I I still felt for Joel. It still hurt that I knew that this kid had nothing to do with anything, and Joel tried his damnedest to make sure that he got out of the situation. Unlike another game, which I don't know if you played, which is Days Gone. Days Gone felt opposite of that. And Days Gone, you still had like this small town feel. This outbreak has started to happen. Boozer and Deacon, they tried to get Deacon's wife out of there because she had just been stabbed by somebody. So she wound up being airlifted out, but Boozer and Deacon had to deal with the ramifications of what's going back on in that town. And even that felt kind of like a little soulless compared to what happened with Joel and his daughter. The only thing that I think was kind of a little bit different was from what I remember, and maybe you can remind me because it's been years since I played the game, but I thought I remember her not dying by a gunshot. I thought she died in a car accident. Am I correct?
Nope. It was they did that pretty much shot for shot. Like what they did that I also liked is that, in games there's there's little, side missions and everything. And they cut some of the fluff out. Like it was a more like before the soldier killed shot at Sarah and Joel, there was a little bit more of like Joel and them running around. The show, they kind of got more, to the point to give us more of the stuff that like is actually important. Like then we get the time jump 20 years later and they hit you with another, damn, that's fucked up moment. And then you kind of now see some of Joel's life in this post-apocalyptic world. Like we see Joel, he's now 56 years old and he's lived 20 years of this hell, basically seeing society collapse. We get more of that. And I think in the game, we don't necessarily get that. In the game, we see Sarah's death and we get Joel waking up in the future 20 years later. Whereas in this, we get more of Joel. We see a little bit more of Joel's life, what he does on the daily in this future. And I think that adds so much context because you get the feeling that he's just been worn down. Like life has worn him down. And I think that as we go forward through the rest of the season, it's going to highlight and it's going to further strengthen the relationship and the emotion between him and Ellie. Like Pedro Pascal, he is going to have him quite a year because he's got the Mandalorian that's coming back. Him and Bella Ramsey already, I'm loving the vibes. I'm loving the vibes between them. Bella Ramsey, she's really good as Ellie. And, the rest of the episodes haven't come back. And I do want to shit on Velma. I do, because I do think I'm giving praise and criticism to Warner Brothers adaptation. So last thing I appreciate, we're going to see some of the video game voice actors actually in the series. Ashley Johnson, who voiced Ellie in the Last of Us games, and I think Troy Baker also, they're going to have roles. We're not going to see them immediately, but they're going to be in this season. So that's something that I also appreciate. I always like it when the adaptations happen and the people who are like the originators and creators, they get to be a part of it in some way. Like, as annoying as it could kind of be, it's something I'm going to miss in Marvel movies, the Stan Lee cameo, because it's like, Stan. It's something that I wish we got more of. It's why in the Crisis on Infinite Earths series, like set episodes that DC did on the Arrowverse, seeing Marv Wolfman, seeing Kevin Conroy, like seeing these people who are like monumental to the history of these properties, seeing them get some love and appreciation, I always like seeing that. So I'm gonna enjoy that, but
I think the Stan Lee.
Let me get to the.
Oh no,
let's get to the.
We're gonna get to that.
Nah.
I do have to ask you one more question real fast, and this is definitely still part of it. There was a scene where they showed that she was locked up with the Fireflies, the leader of the Fireflies, and they did mention Ellie's time at the military camp. Do you think that like this would have been a better show if we would have started off with the prequel to the actual leading up to what we know as Last of Us as it is at this point in time?
Oh no, we're gonna get some of that. Like we're gonna get an entire episode dedicated to in the original Last of Us, there was a DLC, The Last of Us. I can't remember the specific name of it, but it focuses really on
Left
Ellie
behind.
and her best friend Riley, and they go on their like it's their whole little adventure together, and it gives more context to Ellie and explains how she is at the beginning of the game. So we're going to get that. Storm Reed is going to play Riley. Storm Reed, who is perpetually in that kind of like that same age range. Like she's always going to be in high school. Like she's got like another few years of just being, she could be 14 or she can be 18. Like she's got another few years of that, but she's going to be Riley. And that I'm prepared. I'm like, damn, that's going to get to me. But yeah, I think it's more effective the way that they started, giving context, giving an explanation to how something like this is plausible, like the cordyceps thing.
Yes.
The cordyceps with the mushroom, which is a real life thing that happens to insects, and it's horrifying. Like if I've seen nature episode, like nature documentaries where they talk about that, and it's just like, oh, that is terrifying. Like imagine you literally just lose all control of your body. You're basically a puppet, and your only job is now to spread the spores of this thing. And then you see the ants where they're like the spores are growing out of them, and it's like, all it takes is just one little thing to force a species to evolve, and now something fucked up could happen. So I really like the way that they started giving context to that, then giving us more of developing Sarah and making us even more connected to her as a character, and then finally showing more of Joel's life in the post-apocalyptic world, not just all right, we're waking up and we're moving forward in the game. Like now we're going to slow down and we're going to see Joel. We're going to see Joel live his life a bit, seeing how he like hustles, gets the ration cards and everything. So I'm actually, once we're off air, I'm gonna order me some Wingstop. I'm gonna rewatch that first episode. I really do enjoy it. I rarely like the last thing that I like immediately rewatched like an episode of was Peacemaker. And I love rewatching that stuff. This I'm definitely gonna like fire that up after we're off there. I really did enjoy it. Like it was, again, it's a winner. Like already shows a winner. Like already.
I would think that we both agree on that one. It definitely is a winner. But the game itself is a winner. Me personally, I've always had trouble with the game because of the fact that it felt like it was more of a stealth game, and it felt like everything reacted to everything, and so it was very tough for me. But I love the story. The story was amazing. So the game itself felt awkward for me. It felt too stiff the game itself.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point because honestly, like weirdly, the gameplay is like the weakest aspect of the original Last of Us game. Like it's serviceable. Like the gameplay itself, it's nothing special. It's the story that like just the gameplay. If like it was the gameplay that it was already there, and then it had like an okay story, it'd be a low edger, maybe in that slumper territory, but it's the story that pushes it to a winner. And I think that's what the Last of Us 2 game does. It improves the gameplay enough, and then the story is actually interesting. Controversial because of some of the choices that they made, but if they do a second season, they'll address that, and we can get to it then. But it does improve on the gameplay. So I completely understand the gameplay not being the most compelling.
Oh yeah, the gameplay that was a struggle for me. Now, again, this definitely does make me look forward to my favorite game that came out during the iteration of this, which is Days Gone. I really, really want a Days Gone game, TV show to come out. If they don't do a video game, obviously, let's do another TV show. I will say that was my better rendition of gameplay and story. It's a heart fucking breaking story. It definitely does give you the feels. But I will say that like Sony has a tendency of repeating storylines sometimes with games. So one could argue that Days Gone is just a glorified version of Last of Us, but Days Gone technically came out before Last of Us. but at least in production wise. So let's move on to Velma. Now, Velma is the second piece that recently came out this past week as well. We can go on about Last of Us. Go out, see Last of Us. It's on HBO Max right now. Now, Velma is a TV series. It's a different kind of hit. Again, these are two shows that are post.
Give me a moment. Give me one moment.
All right, definitely. Post WMD, which is the Warner Media Discovery production. I would say that it definitely does hit different that we got all these shows. So we were ready for
Hydrate or Die.
Hydrate or Die. So
you had to give me a little bit of water because let me get into Velma. Okay.
Yeah, let's go with Velma.
Now, I'm not gonna be like I ain't gonna be fake and be like, oh, I'm the biggest Scooby-Doo lore expert or biggest Scooby-Doo fan. There are a lot of adaptations of Scooby-Doo that I like. The original stuff from the 60s and 70s, that stuff, it's fun, it's charming, it has its place in history. My child, pup named Scooby-Doo, that was my childhood, love that. Mystery Incorporated, that's a great modern telling us of the Scooby-Doo story, and it's mature without being vulgar. It's one of those joints that's good for the whole family. What's New Scooby-Doo was a fun series. There are a lot of different variations on Scooby-Doo. So Velma, it is basically a prequel for how Mystery Inc. the team got together, how Velma Dinkley became, and the crew, they became these crime solvers. And it is disappointingly bad, this show is. Now, I'm not gonna lie. Let me give it its positives. The animation actually looks good, and there are a few, moments. That was, it's, a few chuckles. But the show itself is just, for the most part, it's surrounded by so much shit. It wants to be Daria, the classic MTV animated show, and it wants to be the Harley Quinn cartoon so bad. It wants to be them so bad. It's basically looking at, it's the Brady girls. You got Marsha Brady, you got Lil Cindy Brady, and then you got Jan. This is Jan Brady. Sorry. You want to be Marsha so bad, but you Jan, baby girl. And Velma, it doesn't work. Velma, the lead character, is really unlikable. And it's something that I hate that a lot of modern shows do. It's the snarkiness, and it's too much. Okay, we get it. You're clever with your writing. Velma is an asshole in this show. Again, few funny moments, but she's just so unlikable. And when your lead character is not likable, you've done a bad job in building up your show. When the person that we're supposed to be following, the main protagonist, is not very likable, you have fucked up at some point. Fred and Daphne, Jesus Christ, they're okay. The voice acting is okay, but Fred, they just made Fred a psychopath, and I'm just kind of a psycho, and I'm like, all right, man. Okay. Shaggy, I'm sorry, he's not Shaggy. He's Norville. Yes, if you didn't know, Shaggy's real first name is Norville. Cool. Who the fuck cares if it's who? He's Shaggy. Why are we doing this? And he's a guy who wants you to know he really hates drugs. Drugs are not cool. They're not funny. 420 humor. It's not funny. It's just okay, fuck you. There are too many talented people. They've wrote on too many good products, on too many good shows for the show to have humor that's this awkward. It's left-leaning, but it's that annoying type of left-leaning. I can watch conservative stuff that leans right. I can watch stuff that leans left. But when you lean too far in either of those directions, you lose me, because it's all right, you're not trying to be funny. You're not trying to be engaging. You're just preaching to me. You're just trying to be a fucking professor to me. And I don't want that. It's what right-wing people do with the Pure Flix films. Some of those are actually decent and have a good message. But for the most part, they're really just propaganda for conservatives. And this feels in that area, but for liberal people. It's just, it's trying to be woke. It's trying to be shows that are much superior, much better. The writing is shamefully weak. The characterizations are terrible. There's some gross shit to it, and I don't like this. Like the show is just not good. They get the characters wrong. Even when they did variations of the characters in other Scooby-Doo media, you still feel who the characters are. This show does not. It doesn't work. It doesn't work on any level. And the real thing that pisses me off is that Warner Brothers went through this whole cancel spree with restructuring and everything, and we're not getting a season 5 of Young Justice after a good bounce back season 4. But they announced, oh, hey, we're getting a second season of Velma. And who is this? Like, the show doesn't feel like it's for anyone. The show doesn't feel like it has an audience. Who is this for? Old school Scooby-Doo fans aren't going to like this because the characters are so far removed. Modern fans aren't going to like this because we've seen stuff like this. We've seen better versions of this over the past decade. Like, who are you writing this for? Like, you have no audience. You are a man without a country. And I just feel like they just took all the most current trends. They took all of that and they tried to make it a show. And again, it wants to be Daria. It wants to be the Harley Quinn series, but it's not that. It can't be those. And it's just shit. It is a fucking dumpster. It is. I rarely give out the dumpster. It's earned that. The show kicks off with 2 roaches fucking.
Well,
that's
in context,
how the show kicks off. It is one of the
show
weirdest.
Does show Daphne first.
It shows. Oh, wait, that's another thing. It shows a very seductive shower scene with a bunch of girls who are 15. Now, we don't see no nipples. We don't see no vash. They cover it up with suds, but it's just like, yo, these girls are all in high school. They sophomore, freshman age in high school. Why the fuck are we seeing this? Why in the fuck are we seeing this? And again, roaches humping is one of the first things that we see. And yet, Mindy Kaling in an interview said, oh, we kind of can put Scooby-Doo in there because it would be too childish. And it's like, you think this is mature? Like, somebody thought that shit was mature? Like, nah, Scooby could have, like, you could put Scooby in this show. Like, that's just, to me, it's like, it's a bigger problem that I have when people want to make like stuff that's more geared towards kids and be like, yeah, let's age it up. Let's make this, dark and edgy. And it's like, kill it, like curse words and just unnecessarily violence. That doesn't mean that the thing that you're making is mature. That's childish. That shit is fucking childish. And it's bad. Like, it is a bad show. It's a bad product. Again, there's some decent voice acting. There's a couple of chuckle moments throughout, but it's a bad show. It's probably going to remain a bad show for the rest of this season and the next season that it has. But hey, we can't get season 5 of Young Justice. The updated version of Batman animated series, that's got to be shopped around because they don't want it on HBO Max. But Velma, you get to season 2. Fuck you.
Are you done? Are you done?
That's it. Say what I said right there, buddy. That's what that is. I said what I said a little bit earlier, man. Oh my God. All right, so cool. I got through about 15 minutes of this show.
One last thing. One last thing.
Go ahead.
The episodes are 24 minutes long, but they feel like they're about 40. They drag too.
Oh yeah, that's what I say. I didn't realize because I was going through 15 minutes and I was like, shit, how much more time do I have to this? And then I stopped. I think I got to about where she was in the car with Norville, and it just felt awkward. Like, now here, I'm gonna ask you a silly aspect, a question. How do you feel about the aspect of them changing the race of all of these characters?
I mean, I never, like, there's certain things in characters in media that I don't think should change. Like, for example, I don't think you should ever make the Black Panther T'Challa a white dude. That'd be stupid. Storm, she should always be black. On that same token, a character like Ben Grimm, He's Jewish in the comics. That's what the creators have him. That's who he is. It's a part of his identity as a character. Daredevil with his Catholicism, that's a part of his identity as a character. For stuff like race, unless it's, again, a situation like T'Challa or Green Lantern John Stewart, I don't necessarily mind. I think if it's done well and with purpose, and it's for telling a new angle on the story, it can work. For this, it doesn't really seem to serve a purpose. Like, okay, Velma's in now. What difference does that make? Okay, Daphne is adopted and is now Asian. What difference does that make? Norville is mixed. What difference does that make? Like, what story? Like he's got a white dad. Like, he actually has a white dad. Like, they show him.
I didn't get to that part. I didn't get that far.
He's mixed, so it's like there's no purpose to it. Like, even like with the big thing that kind of ends episode 2 is Daphne and Velma kiss. Velma, over the last decade of Scooby-Doo media, they've actually delicately and actually respectfully added elements that Velma is gay. And it's actually been done really well. It's served a purpose to add more to her character. And it's done really well in a lot of these other media. In this, it serves no purpose. Like, it serves no purpose. And I'm like, okay, if you're gonna make this change, if you're gonna do these things with race, what's the angle? It's just, we wanted to have a black dude be Shaggy. Mindy Kaling is Indian, so Velma's now Indian. And Constance Wu, she's Daphne. So Daphne's Asian. It's just like, why? What's the purpose? It just seems pandering. It just seems like tokenism, and I hate that. Like, I really don't like that. So, what's up, JT?
What's up, JT? The voice,
good,
man.
Yo.
So yeah, I had a tough time with this, man. When I was
Let me
watching,
close my window because these assholes is yelling outside. Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay, man. Go ahead, do your thing. So I had a tough time with it, man. I just didn't know how to handle the fact that they just did this show, and then all of a sudden when they did this fucking show, they were not only just like almost black facing white characters, and black and brown facing white characters. I didn't really dig that as much. But at the same token, I get what they were trying to do. I just don't feel like it was executed well. This show, just like how you said, did not do anything for representation. It's not like I'm expecting Shaggy to come in with a dashiki. It's not like I'm looking for like the I guess you would say the little tattoo drawings on Velma's hands or anything like that. The stereotypical shit that you usually see. It's not like I'm seeing that anyway. It just looked like these characters are just basically were just drawn to represent the people who were voicing them. And I get it. I see where that could be, I guess, reflecting of the characters, but I just don't see where it benefited the actual show itself. But ultimately, the show it definitely was a dumpster.
You can have white actors. Like, I think in the last decade, there's been kind of pushback on white actors playing non-white characters, and kind of taking them opportunities for voice actors of color. I do think that's some progress in having, like, they changed Cleveland's voice actor, they changed some of the Simpsons characters' voice actors. That's cool. Like, I don't mind that. I honestly, some of these, I'm like, they kind of grandfathered in. Like, I'm sorry, this is gonna be politically incorrect. Apu, he can always, Hank Azaria can always, but like, Simpsons been on for longer than a lot of us been alive. He could still be Apu, but and you can have black characters voice white people. Like, for example, Aquaman, the current, like, the most famous voice of Aquaman over the last like decade is Phil Lamar, and he's still white, and he's still blonde and white, and Phil Lamar fucking kills being Aquaman.
He goes so much harder with Phil Lamar behind that mic, dog.
Just regal, like goddamn. But it's just like it. In the case of Velma, it serves no purpose to the story. It's just to make some cheap. Normally these stories are about attractive white dudes, and it's like, okay. Cool. Congratulations. Pat yourself on the fucking back. Whoop de whoop. You did. You did it. You did it. Cool. But it does nothing. So.
See, I only give a pass to Cleveland Brown because of the fact that like Cleveland's best friend in the Cleveland show, he's a white dude played by a black dude. Cleveland is a white dude playing a black dude. I think that shit is fucking hilarious. The dynamic of the conversation between the two, but I get it if you want to say Cleveland because now he's back in Family Guy and shit like that. So yeah, I get it. But at the same token, Family Guy is also one of those shows where we can also say, kind of like Hank Kazarian, is that like this show's been around for a long ass fucking time at this point in time. So I get shows like, but I would say that on the flip side, I get shows like Big Mouth, where you had the girl who played I want to say the girl's name was Ellie as well. Missy. She got changed over to The Voice, but I think that they did a perfect and beautiful job in transitioning her voice to the new character, because her thing was about identity, going from like being this Jewish white girl, kind of like cultured girl who still lived in this black and brown body, right? And then she's now trying to understand her black and brownness because she has her cousins coming over doing her hair and all the rest of that type of stuff. So I thought they did a beautiful job with that. But yeah, man, I Velma, I just didn't feel it. It's not even about that, about the race and culture, because I liked fucking Wednesday. It was not, I don't think that it was as mind-blowing as people make it look like or make it sound like, but I liked Wednesday. But I think it's just hilarious that people still have Catherine Zeta-Jones play these like Latina roles when she's fucking from Zealand. So, but she plays these roles as Latinas.
She's Welsh. She is from Wales.
Wales, yeah. She's fucking white dog. Come on, man. And then they got her playing this role.
She is from Swansea, Wales. She is from the white people. She is from one of the white people factories.
Yeah, but she looks like a fucking Latina. They put makeup on her just for 5 minutes, and she looks almost like a Latina in these shows. So, like, you got her.
This is crazy. Like, I'm glad. I pulled her up on Wikipedia. She doesn't have no ancestry that's Spanish or anything like that. She is from Wales. If you play Assassin's Creed Black Flag, she is from the same hometown as Edward Kenway.
Yeah.
So wow.
Yes.
Got it.
So yeah. So Velma, I would say Velma is absolutely a dumpster. It does not have no purpose. It really feels like it had no purpose. I would say Scoob did a better job at introducing the group and the team than what this one did. So I don't think that we need any more prequels from these characters at all. Just let's make Scoob have puppies. Scooby needs to have puppies, and just fucking try to raise them and tell him about like how to be a grown dog with a person like Shaggy as their parent. Huh. But now that we got JT the voice with us, man, let's go. JT, we did our brief version of a Eastside review. That would be our part for the Eastside review. Let's do a small version of our I Say What I Said, and then we're going to move on to the movie review. JT, this week you're taking over I Say What I Said. So I Said What I Said is our small brief segment. It's bringing you back to the barbershop. It's bringing you back to the hood corners, man. We as true Eastsiders and the council for the Eastsiders, we have done our part to make sure that we bring in a wholesome environment. Yeah, we laugh, we cry, we fight, we give each other hugs and kumbaya with each other with the voice of reason right behind it. But we still got to have those moments where we get to be as vulnerable and as raw as we could possibly be. So we usually bring up a topic. Person has 2 minutes to actually respond. After they 2 minutes, they're gonna hear.
Are you done? Are you done?
When they're down, when they got the last 5 seconds, they get it. If they got a dead topic and it keeps on going, we end that time up right there. With that, JT, kick it off with I Say What I Said.
So listen, y'all, we have had a tough time with bad, pointless remakes. I think we can all agree on that. Nobody asked for this Velma show, and yet here it is in our laps. And I thank you for your review, because now I know I can just skip that one.
Oh yeah, man. She-Hulk is significantly better than Velma. A billion times better.
Yeah. I think I might try to give She-Hulk another chance. I might try.
I would die on that hill right now.
I don't think it's a very big. I don't feel like that's wrong at all. But that's because She-Hulk was on brand for She-Hulk. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be that kind of wacky ridiculousness. But I got a problem with with sometimes when these people they don't take the content seriously. You know what I'm saying? Back in my day, when you made a movie, something like Major Payne, like it worked because it was serious, even though it was ridiculous, it was serious. You know what I'm saying? So like they had a good balance of the ridiculousness with it. And that kind of got me thinking. And I was thinking, fellas, like what kind of movie do you think people need to watch so that they can understand you better?
Ooh. All right, who's gonna go first on that one, man?
Go ahead, Jamel.
I'm gonna let you go first. I need a little more time to ruminate on.
Shit, I didn't get time to. Actually, JT, you lead off on this one, man. Because you put thought into this.
JT wasn't even prepared. That's how good the question was. It caught you off guard.
There's a couple. So one of the first ones is The Court Jester with Danny Kaye. That movie is from, I think, the 50s. And, like the first decade, they was actually making movies in color. And the movie is so delightfully ridiculous. And Danny Kaye is just hysterical in this film. But you got to understand some of the ridiculousness that just goes on in my brain. Another movie I think you got to watch is Any Mystery Science Theater 3000. Because just know I'm sitting back here making fun of stuff while it goes on. Just know. I'm making jokes in my head. What are you thinking? Oh, you don't want to know. I was blazing the F out of that stuff. And then I think finally it would probably be The Emperor's New Groove. You got to watch The Emperor's New Groove. And if you don't just understand all the different quotes that can come from that film, I don't think we can be friends. Was that enough time to stall history?
I like
since you're going
next? You didn't even.
I think I have mine.
2 minutes, buddy. You didn't even hit it. You didn't even hit it 2 minutes at all.
I wasn't supposed to get 2 minutes. I was supposed to ask a question.
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that's how short it was.
Talk about, you go. Now it's my turn to ask.
Gotcha. Okay.
For me, I think one of the movies that definitely is reflective of like my personality and where I grew up, Menace to Society. The character of Kane, like I have an unpopular opinion. He's more of a generic everyman type of hood character, but his background is definitely one that I relate to with his mother, with the situation with his mother, as well as his father. People might not know this for me, but my grandfather was a man by the name of Fat Man Eddie Jackson, and he was a kind of a drug kingpin in 1970s Detroit. And my mom spiraled a little bit, and ultimately it was one of the things that led to her losing her life. And I just think, man, I could have been Kane. Like I very much in that situation, I could have been Kane. And I saw, like kind of growing up, the paths that people would go down around me. And so even though it's set in LA, I feel Menace to Society, it is a reflection of where I was in a path that I could have took in life. Kind of on the opposite. Of life there was. Yeah, I'm sorry, couldn't hear.
Echoes of a life that wasn't.
Yeah, that's true. Like just that quick. And it's just stupid decisions or bad, or even the decisions that are your only options that could have changed. So I think that's one. The other is, and one that I always fall back to and is a comfort food movie, the original 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you know me, Ninja Turtles, they are my first love. Like my first geekdom, my first love it's them. And it's at the center of it, it's family. I may ignore that. Family. Like Ninja Turtles, it's at my core and it's a very important part of who I am. And finally, I'm a stick in the 90s. Let's go with The Lion King. It is, honestly, it's just joy. Like, it's an epic story, it's joyful, and it speaks to the core of who I am. It's remembering who you are and always keeping your past, the history that you have with your family, the history that you have with where you're from, keeping that front of center and always remembering who you are. So those would be my three.
Fair enough, man. So I have my three, and I'm gonna try to go as quick as possible. So my very first movie is The Wood. I've always loved The Wood. I loved how it represented a person who became a transplant and to a new area and trying to understand and navigate that area, and then having people kind of like poke fun at it. As a person who went through 9 schools in my life throughout my childhood, I would say that that's definitely was my experience, is like learning about the Bloods and Crips and so forth of my area particularly. And especially when I came up to Michigan after Hurricane Katrina. So that was my thing. And I've always, as a kid, wanted friends like the friends that was in The Wood. So I think that was the ambition of it, and trying to adopt that as well. But also trying to navigate, I guess, that coming of age moment when I didn't even get a chance to actually have that coming of age moment. That would be the first movie. Now, the second movie is House Party. Again, another coming of age aspect of it, trying to be able to fit in, trying to be able to actually put myself in a position where I felt popular or felt like I was actually wanted in some particular way, being charismatic in some kind of way, and working on being that ideal person, and knowing that like my competition is a person like Play right across. But don't we all have a little bit of Play inside of us in some kind of way? And the last one is Shaft, man. Shaft has been Shaft has always been the person that
Which Shaft?
For argument's sake, I'm gonna keep it to the early 2000s original first Samuel Jackson Shaft. But a part of me wants to hold on to the John Shaft that I got, where I got in the new 2019 or 2021 movie that we got. Only reason why I love how he had one situation. He said that, which one of these boys hit you? And then he said him, and then he shot the other friend just to make sure that they didn't jump. And I feel like I have those moments sometimes, is the fact of like, even though like I'm out there to get something, I don't think that all my intentions are always kind of read right. And I don't think that sometimes what I say is always read the way that I intended to be out there. But I love one of my favorite quotes in there is where he is inside of the supermarket, and and also my 2 minutes is technically up, but I'm gonna finish this out. He has this scene where he's with Justin T. Usher, and they're inside of the supermarket, and the girl pulls out a bat, and John Shaft pulls out a gun, and he said, "Man, you can't just go and shoot this woman." And then like Shaft was like, "She has a bat, why not?" And Justin T. Usher just says like, "But she's a woman. You can't just go over that." And Shaft said, "Well, I mean, like, you the one that's bringing up her sex. I'm an equal opportunity ass whooper. I don't care." Like, you know what I mean? So I just love those moments, because that's usually how I am. Is the fact of like, I do have those moments, even though how modest I think like JT and a lot of other people read it is the fact that like, nah, man, we gotta have this equal opportunity shit sometimes, dog, and everybody can get it. I don't give a fuck when I get angry. So
that's the real equality right there.
Yes. So with that, man, those are my 3 movies. Those are my 3 movies. Go ahead.
I like it. That was a good question, y'all. We got a lot of info out there. I might watch The Woods tonight.
Yes.
Shoot.
Yes.
I gotta find out what I said. I haven't seen that. It's been too long since I watched
it. Yeah. So other thing I had, the Mandalorian season 3 trailer just dropped last week. And I wanted to kind of get your opinion on The Mandalorian. Have y'all been keeping up with it?
I haven't seen the second season, but I seen most. I think I finished all the first season. But either way, I've been kind of keeping up to it because like spoilers and shit like
second
that.
Season's good. Second season's good. But I had a question. I wanted to know. I'll pose this to Jamel since he's current on these things. Why do you think The Mandalorian has enjoyed popularity where other Star Wars IPs have fallen a little short? Now, there seems to be no shortage of support for the animated shows, but not a lot of people watch animated shows. So Mandalorian being live action, why do you think it's being successful in live action Star Wars where we have so many other misses?
That is the $100,000 question. That's a good one because Star Wars as a fandom, from the outside looking in, they seem very divided. There's some schisms there, to say the least, like it's a religion. But I think The Mandalorian, because since I'm not a primary Star Wars fan, it appealed to me. One, the show looks really good. That's the first thing. If your show looks really good, off to a great start. The performances also help a lot. And I think it does something that Rogue One did, is that it took an element or it took an idea of the Star Wars world. God damn it. Anyway, took an element, expanded on it, and it explored it, like the concept of the Mandalorian. It's like, oh, he kind of looks like Boba Fett, the most overrated character in our series. Let's explore one of those people. Like, let's explore and see that side of the world. We don't have a familiarity with that. And I think it appealed to non-fans. And then for fans of Star Wars in general, it's another one of those things that kind of expands the universe. And when Disney purchased Star Wars, they cut down on a lot of that expanded universe stuff, and that disappointed people. And I think The Mandalorian appealed to those as well. And it's one of the few things, besides Rogue One, that I've seen that both older Star Wars fans and newer Star Wars fans and just us filthy casuals all kind of come together and can enjoy. And of course, Baby Yoda, like he took over the streets for a while. Like that also has a fantastic job of appeal, and they do enough fan service without going overboard. Like they don't get tired.
JT, I want to answer this question as well. I would like to dibble and dabble on this one.
All right.
As a fan of Star Wars and as a person who kept up with Star Wars for a lot of parts, I would say the reason why it's successful is kind of touching on it, what Jamel said, but I'm gonna tweak that answer. It's not a fucking Star Wars show. That one at Andor doesn't feel a Star Wars show. There's no lightsabers, there's no fium for the most part from what you see.
You ain't watched season 2.
Well, but what I mean by it like that is the fact of like you have all these dudes, robes and cloaks and shit like that in this, and there's no talk about the Force. And yes, you have the Mandalorian religion and shit like that, but it explores the world in the context of you not knowing that this thing known as Jedis technically exists. You are a person who's a scavenger in the world where we have to fucking navigate some shit where people just chasing after us, the Empire's chasing after us for no reason. Andor kind of does the same thing where it just basically is like we are oppressing these people. We do not give a fuck. Even like Rogue One had Darth Vader coming in there like spirit choking everybody and throwing them into the walls, right? And you don't really get that with Mandalorian, you know. You do get the big giant trucks and shit like that, and you still get the sprinkle of salt of like these Star Wars things, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a Western. It definitely feels like we are about to do this heist and we're a bunch of cowboys about to fuck up some goddamn.
You really got to watch
trains.
season 2. It gets even more Westerny.
Yes. So I want to say that it doesn't feel like, we know that it exists, but it doesn't feel like a Star Wars film. It feels opposite of it. And I will say that Mandalorian and Andor kind of stretches his legs in expressing that, yeah, we got the Star Wars universe. You can actually see that Disney kind of just put their hands on this versus the films that we got with like Rogue One, with Solo, and so on and so forth. I don't feel like Solo was a Disney product. I felt like that was just a product of the person who just apparently was the writer for the show. That makes sense?
Not exactly, no. Can you elaborate that last bit?
So with this one, it felt like there was a lot of TLC to it. You get a lot of TLC for the Marvel movies, and you get a lot of TLC for like the Disney like princess products, right? So you can look at a Pixar film and know that this is definitely, we're going to be looking at Toy Story eventually, right? You can look at a DreamWorks film and then realize that, yeah, this is going to be Shrek. That's what this felt like with Rogue One. This felt like it was Disney trying to actually say, yeah, we could provide adult content and still be about happy family content as well. Whereas the Star Wars, the final 3 of the Skywalker universe, it felt like the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. It felt like just somebody was just putting some content together and saying, look at me, I can do a film. And that's what it was. We were trying to be sucked into the money and not necessarily the actual storyline and the lore. Like the biggest like fuck you to a lot of like Star Wars fans was Chewbacca didn't get the Millennium Falcon. Hands down. He should have got the award. He should have got all of the like the accreditations that Han Solo had, because he was a ride or die. He was the best friend. So for Chewbacca to not get that was a fuck you to the fans. That's almost as bad as finding out Bran was going to be the new king of the 7 the 7 realms in fucking Game of Thrones.
So bad.
I don't know who Bran is, but that sounds off. This Bran.
It is off, Jamel. You were so insightful.
Yeah, he spends about 5 minutes almost in every episode. He only got like maybe 2 episodes where he's like almost in the predominantly of the whole thing. And he's a paraplegic. He's like broken from the waist down. And he basically becomes this monotone fucking monk. And then they say, well, the best decision is to give this kid who is in the wheelchair and make him king of King's Landing, just to make sure that nobody else gets pissed off that somebody else didn't get the chair as king of King's Landing. It just makes no sense. So yeah, it's a fuck you. It's like finding out the Ronald McDonald had died, right? And now we're gonna give the throne to fucking cousin from Adam's family. It feels like that. It's like what the fuck did we get involved?
I think a more apt could be, it's like you're watching Dragon Ball Z and out of nowhere fucking Yamcha kills Frieza. Like, wait, what?
Like that. That's an even better one. How did that come to be, right?
Who wrote this shit?
Yeah, and that's what the Star Wars trilogy felt like. It felt like it was somebody saying, hey, I had an idea once when I was writing in undergrad. And that's what that felt like. So Rey being Palpatine's kid, that just didn't make no sense. All that shit. So go ahead, JT, man. What's the next question, bro? Sorry for that. I elaborated. That's what I did.
Well, let's bring it back to the real world. Something that we got to do every day. Now, y'all have probably heard me rant about this topic a whole lot. We're gonna talk about cars for a little while.
Gotcha.
What is one thing that is absolutely unacceptable for people to be doing on the road? What is one of your pet peeves that you see when you're driving? And what is something that people need to know not to do when they're behind the wheel?
For me, it's texting. I fucking hate when I see other people texting on the phone, especially if I'm in the car with someone and they not paying attention really. And it's just like, oh, so fuck my life. You gotta send this text that back. Fuck you.
Right.
Fair.
If I'm riding shotgun, you better pass that phone. You better use some voice to text something.
Shout out to my auntie Earth. My auntie Earth is just like that. She'll be like, here, answer my phone for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shout out to her.
Yeah, I use voice to text a lot, man. You obviously that we
can tell.
I use voice to text a lot. But I would say I want to say for the first other person, I'm not even gonna do the text to drive. I hate when people hog up the fucking space when you're trying to pass. You know what I'm trying to like merge over. Why the fuck are you trying to race me to stop me from merging over? You see that light? Stop that. Let me have that space.
To the same spot.
Yeah. I would definitely say that's one of my big ones, man.
So what do you do? What do you do at those times? You speed up, you hit the horn, you hit the finger. What do you do?
Oh, actually, that's one of my other like pet peeves, man. I hate reckless uses of the horn. There's no reckless uses of the horn. Like I get for how long you took to blow that goddamn horn, you could have just like swing your car over a different direction. So reckless uses of the horn is definitely one of those. But as far as me having that, I slow the fuck all the way down and I let that person just go about their business because I feel like if I have them behind me, they're gonna get me into a car accident. They're gonna get me into a car accident because that person's gonna speed up and try to fucking make me rush into doing some stupid stuff. When my dad was a police officer, he used to always catch the person behind the speeder, and the reason being is because of the fact that that's the person that's also going at least the slowest speed that he doesn't have to work hard to catch. So with that, I would say that, man, fuck that. I hate that. I hate people who just stop you from merging, man. That's and reckless uses of the horn. That's your thing. That's your thing, man.
Yeah.
So let's go with the cars.
Yeah. I can't stand it when people like you see me going 5 over the speed limit and you feel like you need to regulate my speed. You know what I'm saying?
Fair.
You mind your business. Your job is to drive defensively. You worry about your car and your personnel inside of that, your property. Okay.
Agreed.
Don't you worry about what I'm doing over here, trying to get this food home, trying to get these meds home because they need it. Something. You know what I'm saying? Like the nerve of people coming up over here trying to think, I'm the sheriff round time. No, you just in the way. And then the other thing that really bothers me is people who don't actually look at the speed limit and know what the speed limit is. Because especially around here in Holland, that speed limit changes, man. Like you'll be going down the same road and it'd be 25, then 55, then 30, then 45.
Yeah, it jumps from 35 to 50 real quick.
And people like they don't pay attention to that transition and then they come up missing a little bit. Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad, man.
Especially because we got a lot of fips and fops around here.
Yeah, we do. But go ahead, Jamel.
Before we get into the movie, I just want to get y'all quick thoughts. Y'all seen this story about Biden and the documents?
Yeah.
Like, how easy is it? Is there no policy that we have where it's like, hey, you leaving your job in government, don't take these documents? Like, because now it's the Hillary shit with the emails. You got Trump. The FBI raided his because he's an uncooperative asshole, and that Biden just like, here's more. Like, what the fuck? Like, why? How easy is it to just be like, all right, well, I'm gonna take these classified documents since I lost my job? What the hell is going on? Man, it's a crazy story. Also, all these crazy ass Republicans now are on committees, and these next 2 years are gonna be fun. But JT, what you think about Grandpa, old Sleepy Joe, in these documents just turning up at his house?
You know, I think that so Biden had documents in both his house and the office he had in DC when he was vice president. So it sounded to me like somebody found these documents, Then they went and told Trump, hey, there's some documents over here in this office. Biden left them. And Trump was like, okay, so guess what? I'm just going to pass this law saying that if you got documents, if you mishandled documents, then you get extra penalties. And then he took all of the documents and left them scattered around, and he probably invited a whole bunch of Russians and Saudis over to walk around his area, and who knows what actually got looked at. I already guarantee you that Trump friggin' raided the National Archives, seeing what he could sell to other countries. Guaranteed.
He can't read though.
Nah, but that's not going to stop him from selling us out if it makes a buck.
True. That's true.
And that's the problem. A lot of people still got faith in this motherfucker. We got to deal with that. Trump does not care about none of you who vote for him. That's why you're dumb. He don't care. I don't know how many more examples you need, but some of y'all have just decided, I'm going to support him regardless for no good reason. Just because somebody says they're a Christian, don't make them a Christian if they're a liar.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, that's all I need. I just need an acknowledgement. No, that's not good enough, because a lot of people give lip service to God, but you got to see who living it up. Can't stand that mess. Anyway, back to Sleepy Joe and his dang documents. So, but that's what I think happened. I think somebody found that mess and they went running off to Trump when he was in office, like, I got a way we can get Joe. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think. But ultimately, we need to have our classified documents linked to some kind of blockchain, so we know every time it changes hands, every document that leaves, and we know everything is accounted for, because we cannot have our classified information floating around the country. Can't do it.
That bell lingers for a long time after it's done ringing.
It does.
Do you have like a quack or something?
So I'm gonna say this, man. As a person who was in the army, man, the military sometimes recklessly spend money and also waste fucking money. And I'm going to attribute that to the documents as well. It's so easy to find fucking confidential documents, man. One of the common jokes was the fact of like our social security number. Like, military vets should be number one, like, people who gets their like identity stolen. And the reason being is because the fact that they expect us to get your social security number, you got it on your dog tags, you got your religious belief, your blood type, all that on your dog tags. If you lose those dog tags, that information is already down, right? And then the other places, like, your release papers and everything like that, you got to go through like 4 locations just to get yourself discharged. So not only do you have to do it through your actual unit itself, you got to go to your battalion and your brigade to get released. So that's 3 places. And then you got to go to your actual post itself. And that's not counting how many officers and like people are within there to be able to actually get yourself just discharged. Not like a particular one, like a honorable, dishonorable, medical, anything like that. Just general discharge. So all your information is being like spread thin already. So it doesn't surprise me that like Joe Biden took documents home, because of the fact that like the army is reckless with that kind of shit. The military is just hands down reckless with a lot of that type of information. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Do I think that he should be penalized? I don't even think that Donald Trump should have been really penalized on it, because of the fact that it doesn't surprise me. Unless you fucking change the system, those dudes shouldn't be looked at when it comes to like those documents. If we're gonna have a system of fucking like reckless ass people, that's perfectly fine. We can't be sitting there looking at like Joe Biden or Donald Trump as evil people when they're just playing the system the way that the system was designed. So it's
absolutely hypocritical for Trump to run on lock her up, and then he does something actually more egregious.
Much agreed.
When this stuff happens, like, I can't give him a pass because he's the one that created the news.
Agreed. I agreed. I'm not taking that away from you. What I'm saying is that, like, if it really bothers us that they are taking these documents home, then we need to get this system changed. And that's why we have these balance of these branches. We got this legislative, and we got the executive, and we got the judicial branches. let's change these fucking laws so they can't be taking this shit down, taking this shit to their house and just like chilling with this motherfucker. So I just think that they playing the system that the way the system is designed. So with that, man, I can't get mad at those people. I think it's silly, and I think it's reckless. Yes, that's a moral, though. That's not necessarily of what's right. You know, it'd be reckless for Mr. Krabs to leave the recipe for the Krabby Patties around so my man Plankton can take it. That's reckless. Is it wrong for Plankton to just see it happen to be on the desk and he takes it? I mean,
yes,
fair play.
He's stealing.
He can take a picture.
It's wrong. Like so I think what you're saying is what you acknowledge that what he's doing is wrong, but the system is so fucked. It's like, okay, why are we getting it? Like, which I kind of understand, but I'm at the same time, it's like,
it's a moral.
Motherfucker, be right.
Yeah, it's a moral. That's what I say. It's a moral. I'm not saying that it's not wrong. It's fucking completely wrong. I just think that like that's a moral aspect of it.
Ideally, it's like, dog, you not in charge. Why didn't you turn in these bro? Why didn't you turn in the paper? Like, that's all you had to do. Be like, all right, here is everything I had. Everything. But according to what history's saying, the army does shit like this too. So goddamn. That's concerning.
Pushed our discharge date back. A lot of medical discharge people got pushed back because apparently there was because what they would do is take the my unit and then like I think it was Fort Hood. They were like the main places where they actually took all of the soldiers from the United States, like their information, and they just basically brought it to these two to three posts mainly. And somehow there was a van that had all these records that they were transitioning between these two places, and this van got like apparently broken into, and they had to call over 30,000 soldiers to like almost 30,000 soldiers, let them know that like, hey, we lost your information, you might be at risk. Think about that. And you about to get out the fucking military. So what am I gonna do when I have my identity stolen? So that shit is just reckless, bro. This shit is just reckless. But if you want to hate them after the system changed. Don't hate them right now because they just played the game. That's all they did.
So one of the things about these documents, and I got that, and I got one more question.
Yes.
One of these things about these documents is that it's actually kind of new for the documents to be considered the American people's property. Up until about Nixon, the documents were considered the presidential's personal documents. You know what I'm saying? So like when you get to that stage, the presidential stage, now all of a sudden you own the classified information. And then you give up that ownership to the next president as it goes on. But we basically saw the abuse that Nixon gave with public, information, and how paranoid he was and how he recorded everything, even the stuff that incriminated himself. And then they basically came out, was like, look, these documents are the property of the American people, not yours. So you don't get to act this way with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is only about 30, 40, 50 years old. You know what I'm saying? So to think about it like this, like, why are you putting our classified information out there? We don't know what's in there. We don't know if it's nuclear codes or soldiers' names and addresses, the secret agents, real identities. We don't know what's in there. And I don't think we're going to actually ever hear it. Shirokaze says, I'll give a mistake credit, but there's a difference between, hey, we need those back, and going, okay, against, nah, I'm going to keep these for a year and ignore all these requests for them back. Yes, you are correct.
Yeah, yes, that's a really, really.
I will also say this before Jay-Z. I was about to call you Jay-Z. God damn, what is with my
history,
words?
bro.
Actually,
history.
Story for another
time. The difference between that we're seeing with Biden and how Trump handled it is that Biden and his people seem to be a little more forthcoming with, hey, we found these, as opposed to Trump, who needed an FBI raid. Like, that's something that you've been seeing, like, oh, where's the FBI raid? It's like, well, the FBI, and by no means do I like the FBI. This past Monday was Martin Luther King Day. reminder: J. Edgar Hoover, racist piece of shit. Fuck J. Edgar Hoover. If I could, I'd piss on his grave. But the FBI modernly, they really don't come by your place if you are cooperating. Like, they don't need to raid you if you're cooperating. Again, fuck the FBI, but Biden seems to be working in forthcoming, and Trump was like, I'm not going to be that forthcoming. So there is a slight difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. JT, what's our final question before we move on to
so because in light of all of these things, we got to end on a little bit of unity. So I wanted to ask y'all, what is a piece of media you think more Americans need to be exposed to that would actually bring us together?
Whew. I think that's I'm gonna go on this one first, Jamal. I think that's a tough question, and the reason why I think it's a tough question because every piece of media is up to scrutiny. I love like D.L. Hughley said about like Gabrielle Union calling Boosie gay about when Boosie was doing the criticism about Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union supporting Zendaya Wade for coming out and doing a transition as well. Is that like you can be a great parent or what you consider as a great parent. That's perfectly fine. If that's what you want to support and that's how you want to raise your kid, that's perfectly fine. But realistically, like you got to be okay with the idea that like not everybody's going to agree with the way that you're doing stuff. So I will say that one piece of a medium that I think that people should consume hands down is Us. That film Us. I would say that would be a perfect one. And the reason being is because of the fact that it's talking about the multi-layers of identity. And I think that if you don't have an understanding of yourself emotionally and mentally, the physical shit and the financial shit, spiritual shit, it's never going to come into place. It's never going to go into sync at all. So I think that Us does a great job at it. But does it come off to another person who's conservative as just liberal media trying to change you? Yeah, I think that that's going to be a thing. That's possibly always happening. But I do think that Us, as a film about identity, I think that that's a must needed. Outside of that, Birth of a Nation, do the Nate Parker fucking film. And if you Randy, watch the original one so you can be able to know your history as a black and brown person, how the first fucking film was racist. So with that, man, I would say hands down, let's do Us as a film.
I'm gonna pick some more cheerful topic movies because goddamn. And it's one that I'm in the coming month, I want us to do a dive in. I'm gonna say Barbershop. I think Barbershop is a movie that it hits on something that JT, like, I don't know how we've gotten to this. It's a thing that we've been talking about over the last month. Community. Like Barbershop is, you can watch that and I believe you can be, not black, you can be conservative or other, and you can still get something out of it because at the end of the day, it's a story surrounding a small business and its importance to the community itself. And culturally speaking, how important barbershops have been to the black community. And I think it really does hit on, a lot of points that are important. Tradition. Cedric the Entertainer, who's a great character as Eddie in that movie, first the speech when he's shaving old boy, and then when he finds out that Calvin has sold the barbershop, reiterating the importance of what it means for that neighborhood, for that community. And I think that it's something that's unifying. It's something that people can get behind, and this is just an aside. The trilogy of Barbershop honestly does personify that, in my opinion, just as a trilogy, the importance of community, the importance of neighborhoods, the importance of those connections on that personal level. And I think the first one sets a very good tone for that. So yeah, Barbershop. I think that's a good movie to be like, hey, you can get people from all walks of life and they can get something out of this movie.
I think that's a great choice.
Hell yeah.
Look forward to doing that movie review.
We'll do that one day, man. We'll definitely do that one
You
day.
get a movie reviews.
I just yeah. OJ did it. Man, fuck Jesse Jackson.
Man, it's a really like I'm like having just rewatched. I'm like, man, this movie holds up well. Like this, like themes of this movie holds up really well. And the third one, it's the rare third Black movie in a trilogy that is actually good. Like, and it's years after the second one, and it's actually a really good movie. So, speaking of movie reviews,
wait,
go right ahead.
Real question.
Always do.
And I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go. Do you think that this is the actual best film that Ice Cube has produced in his film career?
Probably.
In my opinion, and this is gonna be Black. Like I can pay. It's something that in my head I've been like I want to do a deeper dive on this, comparing the trilogy of Friday, the trilogy of Barbershop. But it's like just movie to movie. Friday is like a classic on another level. Like it's just like it solidly. Like it has a lot of elements that work. But Ice Cube acts really well in the Barbershop trilogy, and I do think. Like you can give, I think his role as Doughboy is up there. I think his role in the 21 Jump Street movies is up there. But I think the character of Calvin is the best character that Ice Cube has done because he's fully fleshed out and three-dimensional, and the world that he's in, you can take it a lot more seriously. First Friday, Craig brings that, but then the series definitely it loses the edge that the first one had. Like there's no sense of danger in Next Friday or Friday after next. They're more wacky, they're more silly. In Barbershop, these are comedies, but there's also these dramatic elements that really do hit on, again, tradition within the first movie and what it means to actually have that tradition. The second movie deals with the concept, with the evolution of a neighborhood and the idea of gentrification. And then the third movie, it deals with the modern problems that are happening in Chicago. So you really get a world that's built around and centered on this barbershop that expands and hits on a lot of different things. So I think that, I think the Barbershop movies are the best set of movies that Ice Cube has ever acted in my opinion. Doughboy is still his most iconic role. Craig is maybe like right there, but as an overall actor, it's Calvin in the Barbershop trilogy.
Gotcha. It's the best produced movie. That's his best produced movies. Only reason why I don't give like Higher Learning or like Boys in the Hood, because he didn't produce that. So that's what I'm talking about. Like the shit that he fucking made. Like Friday. Like that will be Barbershop. That would be All About the Benjamins and Friday and so on and so forth. All right, man. Let's go into the movie review, man.
JT, you had any last minute thoughts?
Most of the movies, I mean, honestly, the answer for me is Static Shock, because Static Shock, starring my nigga Phil Lamar as Static, and his best friend is a white boy. And you know what? I had a best friend who was a white boy, and it was like that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So like just seeing the camaraderie and the difference, and like having that dynamic be different but yet acceptable for both of the guys, you know what I mean, was pretty cool to see. And we had a lot of adventures, but certain things you got to bring a white boy to do. So if you really want to get away with some shit, you gotta have a white friend, yo.
You just made one half of yourself just feel so comfortable and not want to walk across the street when they see the other half of you, right?
Look, I'm telling you, sometimes you just need to look like you're with a local, you know what I mean, to fit in. And then other times, like it's especially funny when like you bring your white friends to your hood and you go like to your ghetto where you feel comfortable, or watching them be all nervous and stuff. Like, dog, just because we're on the South Side doesn't mean nothing. Like, relax. Unless you start looking at people weird, nothing's gonna go wrong, because people mind their business around these parts.
Fair.
Unlike in your area.
Man, your business keeps you out of a lot of trouble.
A lot of trouble.
And keep
like,
Will Smith's name out of your
like
mouth.
The anime Parasite. Boy, a lot of people could have not died if they just mind their own business. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up Static Shock. That's a fantastic show. It really did dive into stuff that, wow, didn't expect a kids show to dive into that. With stuck their toe to racism, stuck their toe with school shootings and bullying. Like, it got heavy. And for me, it's one of the greatest Christmas specials that we've seen.
Yes.
Reiterating that you need to be charitable all year round and not just around Christmas.
And we need to keep Will
Smith's now reach the
name out of your
movie
mouth.
review portion of our show. And this week we are talking a little bit about Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, the sequel to the 2019 Knives Out movie. It's a mystery. It's directed by Rian Johnson. Speaking of Star Wars related, but this is not in that category. This is a pretty stacked cast of folk. You got Janelle Monáe, you got Kathryn Hahn, you got Leslie Odom Jr., you got Big Dave Bautista, you got Kate Hudson, and of course you got the man at the center of it, Daniel Craig, in addition to Ed Norton. So I want to start things off with JT, the voice. What did you think about the setting of this movie? It is primarily taking place in Greece during the COVID-19 pandemic. What did you think of the setting of the movie?
I thought they could have done away with the COVID thing. I thought it was just a complete, just absolute non sequitur. It was really kind of stupid, and I didn't think needed to be there, and just it was never mentioned again, really, so it just wasn't relevant. And I don't think it added to the movie at all. And that's probably one of the only things I would say about the film. But that COVID setting just didn't do anything else after the first scene. And I lament that fact, because if you're, according to movies like Knives Out, excuse me, one second. I had to yell at somebody right quick.
Damn it, Nacho.
Yeah, you already know, dog. You already know.
Fucking Nacho.
Hey. Right.
If you're one of our listeners, Nachos is one of JT's cats.
Nacho Libre is tripping.
Yeah, Nacho.
But finish what you were saying, man.
Come here. I mean, apart from COVID, yeah, the island that they went to, very cliche rich guy stuff. The setting was nice, exotic, beautiful, looked great in 4K. Spectrum only gave me minimum stuttering. What did you think about the setting, History Williams?
I like the fact that it took place more than one place in theory. I love the fact that even though it primarily was on the island, we got to visit other people's like homes, and we got to actually see Andy and Benoit Blanc have dinner inside of the actual like of Greece and stuff like that as well. I love the fact that it was multi-layered itself. So yeah, I do like it. I think the island actually kind of made it more. It made it uninteresting, because it felt like I was going on I was going to actually see a fucking James Bond villain more than I'd actually see a person who just was like, oh, I'm just rich. We just seen a James Bond villain.
Yeah, I think that the setting in theory works, because since this is during the pandemic and these are all very rich people, if you guys remember during the pandemic, we were seeing these stories of super rich people basically saying fuck you to like COVID restrictions, and just like, we're gonna party and we're gonna hang out and we're gonna do our thing anyway. So I think that's what they were going for, is like, okay, these are these super rich people, they're kind of skirting above the rules, like, all right, okay, we're in lockdown, sure. Nah, I'm going to Greece, fuck you. But you hit on James Bond, Daniel Craig. This is interesting. Daniel Craig is having an interesting time post James Bond. We think that No Time to Die is the last movie that he's going to be the James Bond character. So, History, what do you think of Daniel Craig's performance as it relates not only to this and the first Knives Out, but also the stuff that he's been doing and where you see him going kind of post James Bond?
I like him as Benoit Blanc on this, man, and I like the fact that he's not taking himself seriously anymore. In the other films, it felt like he was taking himself super serious, and now he just recently came out with the vodka commercial that was really fucking strong. It like showed him like being naturally who he wants to be, and now Benoit Blanc is kind of like this goofy like guy who's a nerd for like mystery and like solving stuff. That felt fun. So I wouldn't be surprised if Benoit Blanc comes out with a film that's almost like Jingle All the Way eventually, where he went from this super serious person, now he's playing this like this jokey character eventually, because
you call him his character.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Daniel Craig. That's what I meant. I wish that that's what I expect to see him do. I expect him to go to something like where he's joking more so and having more fun with his career and his age at this point.
JT, what about you? What are you thinking of Daniel Craig in this movie as well as in context with the original Knives Out?
Did you get to watch the original Knives Out?
I got to start it. I haven't finished it yet.
But you watched Glass Onion before you watched the original one, huh? Okay. Yeah. Good. I'll be interested to hear your flavors on both of them. Bring that one to the chat. Anyway, I thought Daniel Craig was great. I really liked him across from Janelle Monáe. I thought they were wonderful together. Probably the best pairing in the whole film. Yes. And Janelle Monáe absolutely killed it in this role. And she did real good doing her thing. I'm trying not to spoil it, you know what I'm saying? But Janelle Monáe, she came hard. She came hard and she came with it, and she did a good job. My biggest complaint about the film really is like it doesn't give you an option to solve it yourself. Some movies, they spread the breadcrumbs in there and whatnot. And I feel like the original Knives Out did that. But this Glass Onion is actually more of a satire. It is a satire film, a satire detective film. So you got to like kind of keep that in mind. You're not supposed to get it. It's supposed to be twist. It's supposed to be a surprise. Supposed to be a big reveal. I just, anytime you got a detective movie, I'm like, all right, I'll put my detective cap on. Let me be the detective. You know what I'm saying? Hey.
Once again, Nacho going crazy. Nacho is acting spicy today. So, JT, any more thoughts on Craig as it relates to this movie and then the mystery elements?
Yeah.
What was that?
Mystery elements? No, I was going to say I didn't want to interrupt you. You were making your point.
Oh, I'm just doing a little verbal ass whooping on these kitties. That's all. I have no further points, sir.
Okay, so you hit on the mystery aspect, and I want to bounce that back to history. How do you think the mystery aspect of this movie, keeping in mind that it is more of satire as a comparison to first Knives Out, how do you think both movies handled the idea of a mystery? Because we don't really get mystery films all too often. Like usually if it's mystery, we get them in novels, maybe in TV shows. We don't really get them in modern times that much. So what did you think of the mystery aspects across both movies?
I felt like for this one, I felt like this was a better mystery in the first, maybe third of the film versus the second, the first film. I'm sorry, maybe we're reword that. The second film, the first third of the act, I guess you would say, was a better mystery for me. Personally, I love the satire. I love the fact that it didn't take itself seriously. I love the fact that Benoit Blanc like completely fucked over Miles, like plans for a murder mystery because Benoit Blanc was like, "Do I win something?" And then all of a sudden he said, "You died with the crossbow right over there." Like he did it with it before Miles even started the fucking plan, and then he got an iPad for it. And he said that, well, if you solve this, you get an iPad Pro. You know, it's just so hilarious that like Benoit Blanc was pretty good at this. I think the idea that the item was right in front of their eyes the whole time hits a little bit different and better. I felt the first one was stretching it because in the first film, and I know that you're gonna watch it still, but it was the fact of like she had done it so repeatedly that they knew that she couldn't have killed him because of the fact of she had done the thing so many times that she couldn't have given him the medication because the normal muscle memory would have been like, oh, this thing is off. I would have just switched to something else. I felt that it was a stretch. So with that, I felt like the first one didn't really feel like a mystery as much as like a come on for real. Like we really going to go that way? It's going back to the brand and Game of Thrones aspect of it. It's like we really going to end it with this context seriously. So it felt fun, but then this one definitely was like, I want to see more of Knives Out like this. I want to see more of this Benoit Blanc.
Okay. All right, so let's get to some of the other characters in this movie. We touched on Benoit, but there's, of course, the primary asshole of the movie, Mr. Miles Braun, the billionaire tech CEO. And I might as well say this because I was going to ask this question, but I'm going to set this up for you guys. JT, do you see a comparison of a supposed tech genius billionaire who's taking credit for people's ideas and kind of fucking up? And how do you think he compares to someone? I mean, it's not like we have a recent example of one like that. What do you think? I mean, what do you think this Miles Braun, like if he existed in real life, how does he compare? Where did they come up with this fantasy idea?
Well, his name isn't an anagram, right? But yeah. So we all know there are several billionaires who could fit the mold, and some better than others. I think that the trope of billionaire equals smart has permeated capitalism. If you got $1 billion, you must be a smart guy. You get $1 billion by dicking everybody over on their paychecks. You do not get to $1 billion by paying people what they're worth. You get to $1 billion by paying people as little as possible. And so for somebody to steal other people's ideas and employ them, and then, hoard all of those resources to enrich themselves to obscene amounts, that's pretty much the sign of an asshole. You know what I'm saying? If you're doing your company right, you shouldn't have $1 billion because you should be reinvesting that profit that you take in. You should be reinvesting in your people. You should be reinvesting in your R&D. And, when we see the stupidity of the billionaire in Glass Onion, when we see, that the emperor actually has no clothes, a lot of other stuff kind of makes more sense.
History, what about you? What you think of the billionaire tech mogul Miles Braun?
Oh yeah, man, this is hands down fucking Elon Musk and the love child of Elon Musk and fucking what's your boy from Facebook, Zuckerberg. It feels like the love child of both of them. I wanted to say Jeff Bezos. I really wanted to say fucking Jeff Bezos, but Jeff Bezos actually executed his shit. But this definitely screams out Elon Musk and like Mark Zuckerberg. And the only reason why I say Mark Zuckerberg, because didn't Mark Zuckerberg steal his fucking idea from somebody else? And
from
then
the Winklevoss twins. Yeah,
he stole the idea from it. The aspect of like the actual tech part is where I would say Elon Musk is in play with this. So these screamed out these two people for sure. I have a hard time not hating these characters, which I think that it does a good job at it. But also on top of that, I think that they picked the right person to play Miles Bron and Edward Norton, because he's easily a perfect person to fucking hate because of his behaviors actually in IRL. So I would definitely say, I say IRL like an anagram, bro, like it's not real in life. In real life, I would say that they picked a really perfect person to play this character, Miles Bron, and I feel like he definitely did good job at showing the cowardice of being a tech billionaire. He was a coward straight throughout this whole fucking film, and he capitalized so well. So that's my personal opinion about that one.
It's actually something that the writer that Ryan Johnson touched on. He said that a friend of his said that, like, wow, because this came out around the time Elon Musk took over Twitter, and we saw how well that went. And his friend was just like, wow, it feels like you wrote this afternoon. And Ryan Johnson was like, dog, it feels like a horrible accident. It's amazing the comparison that you can make between Miles Bron and Elon Musk. It basically feels like, wow, they got this done. Like, they saw this and got this done in an afternoon, because this for sure has big Elon Musk energy. And if you look into Elon Musk's history and how he's gotten down with some of his businesses, you would see, yeah, this is pretty much a perfect allegory, a perfect comparison. Also a little bit of Donald Trump. And it really does highlight how omnipresent, how front of mind a lot of these billionaire type people are. And I don't know, it didn't seem like it used to be that way. Like, we didn't know all that much about some billionaires back in the day. And now it's just, oh, these guys are just everywhere, front and center. And Elon Musk, he so wants to be liked because his dad probably didn't like him enough. And same thing with Trump. Like, moral of the story with those two, before we get back into the movie, is hug your children and love your children a little bit more, so they don't grow up to be vengeful assholes to society. History, in fact, I give you permission. You can go ahead, go hug your son and daughter. Just tell them that they're a good boy and they're a good girl, because we don't need them turning into assholes for society and fucking up shit for everybody. But on to some of the more ensemble casts. You mentioned Janelle Monáe. She has had a pretty big rise as an actress over the last 5 or 6 years with stuff like Hidden Figures. JT, who do you think, aside Janelle Monáe, who do you think is the most standout member of the rest of the ensemble cast? Besides Janelle Monáe and
Batista.
The animal.
Definitely Batista. His ridiculousness is just delightful. Very hilarious and fun to watch. And it's when he pulled that gun out of his drawers in the pool.
Can I talk about fucking Dave Batista, dog?
I think with me and you history, we have more context with Batista because we're both wrestling fans. And it's just, I remember Batista's debut in the WWE as Deacon Batista, the sidekick to the Reverend Devon Dudley, where he was just muscled up dude. He had a sleeveless suit with he had the chain with the collection box on it, and he then went to be the goon for Evolution and became a breakout star. And now through wrestling he progressed, but now as an actor he takes on these different roles, and it's you know what, I respect it. It's something to watch.
Bruh, I would argue that honestly, out of the 3 major ones that became from wrestlers, the 3 notable ones, that's including Batista is the best fucking actor out of the 3, dog.
I'll say it like The Rock. I'll say it like
he's
this.
better than The Rock, man. Go ahead.
Way better.
Can y'all let me speak?
Oh, no. We didn't hear you.
I'm ultimately going to agree with you. But here's the thing. The Rock is a bigger movie star. The Rock himself, he has the ability to carry a franchise. He's got that star. He's a bigger star. I'm going to say that. In the world of wrestling, and movie star.
He was a bigger star in WWE, wasn't he, though?
He was. Same deal with John Cena. And The Rock, I've seen, like, I recommend watching Pain and Gain. It is an extraordinary role for him. He is hilarious in that role. It's something that I'm like, man, if The Rock would just test himself, he's got all three of them, I feel, have the talent. John Cena is starting to test himself a little. He's much more in the I'm more comedic lane, but Peacemaker opened my eyes to John Cena. Like, okay,
he got some chops, dog.
He's got chops. And The Rock has he has those chops with Pain and Gain. With Grit, he's got the ability. It's just like, it feels to me, he's gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I'm at this level of success. I know what works for me. Let me not go outside the box too much. Let me not step outside the shell. And I know it's gonna work, and I know it's gonna make me money. I can't knock the hustle. Trust me, if there was a way for me to do the similar role, make that and make tons of money, I would in a heartbeat. But Dave Bautista, he's shown a willingness to step outside of his comfort zone. With Blade Runner 2099, with a movie like Hotel Artemis, with Spectre, with this, it's a respectable thing where it's like, all right, it might not work, but I'm gonna try it anyway. And I'm gonna grow as an actor. And he is, for me, the best actor of the bunch, because he's the one who consistently tests himself in these different roles and different capacities.
Agreed. And I felt like Dwayne Johnson put himself in a box. I think that at first we got a serious Dwayne Johnson, and that's when he was playing like roles like Gridiron Gang, and even I would even argue Scorpion King. Scorpion King was one of his more serious roles. That's the character. Black Adam is Scorpion King. He's that's where I was trying to figure out where I remember this character from. Black Adam is it's the same fucking dude from Scorpion King. But you could see that he kind of pushed himself a little bit more so. And even going into Black Adam, you could see that he tried to kind of do more of the physical acting, more than actually utilizing his charisma. Because even when he was Hobbs, man, he was still fucking very much so a charismatic character. Whereas these other ones, I really don't feel like I got that from him. And even then, when he goes into this serious role, it's still an action film. Whereas Dave Bautista, at this point in time, the Dave Bautista that I've seen, not in Knives Out, I'm not even gonna throw it out there like that. I'm gonna say the one that was in My Spy, and the Uber film, the Stuber film. Stuber. And then also arguably the Batista that we got in Army of the Dead. I can see that one being a serious role. I can see him being in a film where he can go. I know that this might not be the greatest, but I can see him being a counter to fucking Denzel Washington in a film. Denzel Washington now, not Denzel in Glory. But Denzel Washington now. Denzel Washington now is having fun with his career. But I can see him being a counter for a lot of serious actors. Outside of that, I'm surprised that he was out acting Leslie Odom at some points in time. That makes sense? So
I honestly don't think I think Leslie Odom had the weakest character in the show.
Exactly.
The random dude who did the maintenance had more interesting knowledge about himself than Leslie Odom Jr. did. And I thought that was a true waste of his star power and potential. Yeah. And he was arguably the one throwaway character because he really didn't do nothing integral.
Yeah. It's the character IRL is kind of such the opposite of who Batista is. Yes. Being a men's rights activist. And if you follow Dave Bautista, that ain't really his get down. And it's just he does this real well. And it's just man, if The Rock would just get with like a Ryan Johnson, if he would get with Tarantino, like you put him with Ava DuVernay, like they would get something out of him. But instead, it's not too late because Matthew McConaughey was doing the same damn role for like a decade. Channing Tatum was just the same dude in all these weak ass romantic comedy movies. And then suddenly he switched the shit up. It's not too late, but it's just like, man, Batista, he's been doing it for now 13 years as primarily acting, and he's been really good at it. And it's not just Drax. He's shown that ability and he's shown that growth. I agree with you. Leslie Odom Jr. Is a good actor, but underutilized.
He was very underutilized. I agree with that, man.
Like he's honestly, speaking of him, there was a movie that came out, the Sopranos movie, The Many Saints of Newark, and that is not a very engaging movie. It's a Sopranos sequel, and it got hyped up, and it's, in my opinion, not very good. But he's the standout of that movie, and it's just disappointing when you see an actor be really good and consistent and stuff, and then it's just like, didn't really use him. Like they didn't really use him in a good way.
Cool. Actually, I'm gonna ask you another one, man. How did y'all feel about Jessica Henwick in this one? Now I don't know if y'all remember what. Yeah. Well, Jessica
was she
Henwick
the girl
was
who tried to seduce dude?
No, she was the Asian girl.
The
She was the
Asian
one that was.
assistant.
The assistant.
Yeah, she was the intern.
She was the
great.
assistant.
Iron
Fist.
Yeah, I absolutely surprised at how well she fucking did in this one. She molded well with this cast and crew, far better than what I could say that Leslie Odom's character did. It felt like Leslie Odom was there to kind of just be able to be the audience member.
It was like he was an afterthought.
That's what I mean. That's what I say. I feel like the movie revolved around Leslie Odom, and he was just being the person to kind of see shit happen. He happened to see shit happen. So like when Birdie J, which is Kate Hudson's character, walks after having an argument with Andy, like Janelle Monáe's character, he walks up to her, and then she's now saying, well, something is wrong. And then, oh, well, I don't like this way this crystal looks. Like he was happened to have some shit happen. You know what I mean? Person in the room. I don't think that he was really a character that felt like he had a purpose. But going into it, I mean, a movie that did a really good job by having a character who just exists actually was The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, because Keanu Reeves' role as Neo was supposed to be the person who asked questions for the audience. So, but Jessica Henwick, man, to come from Iron Fist, how do you see her performance in this film?
I mean, it's basically she went through hell and now she's out the. She basically, to compare it, if you've seen Shawshank Redemption, she's Andy Dufresne crawling through a mile-long sewage pipe to escape prison. That's Iron Fist, and she's just out on the other side. She probably can do it. She can do anything at this point because she survived Iron Fist.
Yeah. But go ahead, man. Go ahead, Jamel.
So we're nearing the end of the review. Overall, I enjoy the movie. So let's get to a couple of rapid fire questions. I added this element into our reviews last week. I want to see how it goes this week. So if you were to add this particular actor to the movie, could it improve? Would the movie be improved if you switch out or expand Leslie Odom Jr.'s character, but instead of it being him, it's Mahershala Ali? Do you think that would enhance the movie?
With the same lines? No.
Different, a little bit more expansive role. Or matter of fact,
you can keep Leslie and give it a little more expansive role, and it would have made a difference. He just needed, like, I don't know, like he had his little 2 monologues or whatever, but it really felt like some stuff that he rehearsed on the way over. It didn't really feel like it was pushing his lines, push the movie forward. You know what I'm saying? So I really feel like they added Leslie Odom Jr. because he was like, "Hey, what's up, Ryan? You doing a movie? Can you stick me in it?" "Oh yeah, dog. Oh yeah, definitely." And he just kind of went back and rewrote some scenes and put him in there. That's what it felt like. And maybe I'm going back and watching it again. I might be able to get a little bit different feeling than that. But that's how I feel right now. And I don't think switching out the actor would be the thing that would make the movie better, because Leslie Odom Jr. is a fine actor in his own right.
I probably should have asked that better. Adding the actor Mahershala Ali, do you think that would help elevate?
You need an older person. I think you need an older person to get some more dynamics, because everybody in there was like roughly the same age. You know, they were all kind of like clicked up or whatever. Looked like a bunch of people who known each other since prep school. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you said older, because I've got an older person in mind. I'm glad you said that. And I was going to, Jamie Lee Curtis popped in my head for a second. I'm like, oh, she was in the first one. Would adding an older character into this dynamic that could be a little bit rougher, would adding someone like Denzel, an older character, not in Leslie's role, but just older character amongst this group of roughly the same age people, would adding Denzel specifically, do you think that would add and elevate the dynamics?
I already thought Denzel was going to be my answer. I think if you swap Leslie Odom out for Denzel, and then you basically have Denzel give people like I'm too old for this, but I see how it goes. So I'm just over here not trying to rock the boat, just trying to float under the radar. I know this dude is crazy, but he got the resources to bury all of us. If you have like a little side thing where he try to, pull you over to the side and give you a little game, you know what I'm saying? I think it would have really kind of put a pin in wherever else Rian Johnson was trying to do and made it that much tighter.
What about your history?
I think that we should have switched Dave Bautista's character with Leslie Odom, and if we kept Denzel Washington,
have a big jacked ass scientist.
Yeah. Fuck. I had a white person in my perfect. Had a Vince Vaughn play whiskey. Not whiskey. Fuck.
That would have been interesting.
Have Duke Cody. I want Vince Vaughn playing Duke Cody. And here's my thing, because Vince Vaughn is actually real life. He's super fucking conservative. So it would have been perfect to have him act out that shit, and then also have the element of knowing that, like, do you really think this shit this way on the side? Because like Terrence Howard said it, man, like, there is internalized every character that you act out in acting. There's a part of you that's inside of you. So there's a part that's Anthony Hopkins, that there is a Hannibal Lecter. So having Vince Vaughn play this super conservative person like Duke Cody, doing that same shot and shit like that, and being like, I just don't understand it. Why not you shooting up in the air? Like having this kind of fucking thing. Like, I think that would have been a better dynamic. And then also having Dave Bautista still be slow and kind of melancholy sometimes, but then also just be like, you really serious about this? You gonna really blow up shit? Like, kind of like have that experience. I think that it would have still held on to the idea of him being that super serious actor, but also on top of that, doing it in a comedic aspect of it. Because, like, again, a super buff fucking scientist, like, nobody's looking at that guy and be like, yeah, astrophysics. Nobody's looking at the piece.
Bitch, go lift a weight. All right,
yeah. Okay. So I think that Vince Vaughn would have been a good. Go ahead.
Bitch, go lift a weight.
Yeah. So I think that he would have been. You don't want him to be too old. I think that Vince Vaughn would have been a perfect, like, about age of old enough where he could have still been in school with them, but not also be a person that's like out of the range of like understanding this group.
I was thinking, like, now that you mentioned kind of older, I think an older woman would also be a good dynamic to add. Like maybe add in someone like an Octavia Spencer or Shooting for the Moon, adding a Meryl Streep. I think that would have been interesting because, again, all the women there around the same age and Meryl's a little bit older. But yeah, I like both the points that we all three made. Denzel as like the older black scientist, or or already in real life conservative Vince Vaughn as Duke Cody. That also would have been a good addition. So, do y'all think it looks like we're getting another movie, and both Daniel Craig and Ryan Johnson have said as long as each other, so as long as Johnson and Craig are involved, they want to keep doing these movies, and it looks like the third one is in development. But do you think this could work as a regular occurring series on Netflix, since this is owned by Netflix? So we get 10 episodes of a mystery every year, every other year, and maybe it's followed by a movie. Do you think that formula could work?
Do you want to answer the question first, JT? All right. Well, hands down. I think absolutely not.
All right. Okay. So we've now gotten to the portion of the show where we give our final ratings of the movie. For those unfamiliar, we have a 5-tier rating system, basically out of 5 stars. If a movie is a 5 out of 5, fresh sale all day, we call that a winner. If a movie is good, but could use a little bit of improvement, but it's still very enjoyable, 4 out of 5, that would be an edger. Movie that's 3 out of 5, that is a slumper, kind of boring, and not ultimately harmless, but a lot needs to be fixed. Number 2, that is a sleeper, movie that's bad, boring, needs a lot of improvement to even be passable. Then, of course, at the bottom, 1 out of 5 is the dumpster. That is a movie that's damn near irredeemable. That is the Morbius tier of movies. So basically think of it like this. You got something very good at the top tier, and then Morbius is that number 1 dumpster tier. So, JT, what would you say is your rating of Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery?
I gotta, because of the entertaining characters, because of the excellent supporting cast, I gotta give this one an edger.
All right. History, what about you? What say you? What is your rating for Glass
Onion? I'm gonna give it a winner for this one. I think that the first movie felt more like an edger for me. I'm gonna give this one a winner, and the reason being is because the fact that I felt like Daniel Craig invested into the character. I felt like Janelle Monáe got to like really kind of spread her wings a little bit with this character, especially being able to play 2 different characters. It felt good seeing this actual film. It also, in a way, even though like it's kind of hard sometimes, but it's very easy to enjoy Edward Norton as being a villain again in some form or fashion. I felt like a lot of the characters still brought something to the table, no matter how weak the paper plates were for people like Leslie Odom and even like Kate Hudson's character. I still think that they were pretty good. So I really want to say kudos to those 3 people, though, for sure. Dave Bautista, Janelle Monáe, as well as also Daniel Craig, for doing such a good job with this film. I really want to actually say this is that this also did a good job by advertising a film like fucking Antebellum for Janelle Monáe as well, because it shows that like she's came a long way from even acting in that film to this one.
All right, I will also espouse, and I will also agree with JT. Give this movie an edger. A lot of entertaining characters, a setting that, while not necessarily wholly unique, is something that I do respect. Of course, the spot-on characterization of the tech billionaire who is considered a genius by the outer world, but is actually kind of a bumbling dumbass. Very apropos and just spot on with how Elon Musk, his get down has been over the last few months. So yeah, Daniel Craig was also, as usual, is good. I'm excited to see where his post career of being James Bond goes. And of course, Dave Bautista continuing to be the most unique and interesting actor of the triad of like next level wrestlers turned actors amongst him, Dwayne Johnson, and John Cena. So yeah, it is for sure an edger and something that I highly recommend. If you haven't seen it before, go ahead, check it out, and also watch the original Knives Out. Again, both movies are on Netflix. Netflix bought the series and the rights to Knives Out for a cool $496 million. So yeah,
it's worth it though.
A cool work. Yeah, it really is. It's worth it. That's gonna do it for our review this week. Coming up next week, and I figure I might as well start doing this just to give people time to prep and do a little bit of a rewatch and research. Coming up next week, we have Ambulance from 2022. Michael Bay directed film. It was made during the 2020 pandemic. It may be affected by that. It may not be. But it's an action film. Michael Bay does his thing in the movie. We'll talk about it next week. But until then, history, turning the reins of the show back over to you to bring us on home.
Awesome, man. Make sure that you actually check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your audio acoustical pleasures from. If you go to Spotify, you're going to actually see some more interaction with you. So go and check out our polls as well as our questions that we have at the very end. As well, check out for February 19th. We're going to actually start setting up actual donations and stuff like that to help to actually grow this podcast. And also, we ask that you do share this with your friends and likes, and make sure that you actually rate this podcast. When you actually do rate the podcast and you put a comment at the very bottom of it, you have a chance to actually have it read live on this actual stream. With that, also follow us wherever you get your social media from. So that is at HVFE Podcast on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, so on and so forth. Make sure you also follow Jamel 727 on Twitter, as well as also Instagram and TikTok. And then JT The Voice is where JT The Voice exists on social media.
I am present in the flesh.
Yes, definitely.
Nacho Libre on JT socials, because Nacho is apparently part of the show now.
Yeah, Nacho is definitely part of the show now.
She want to talk.
Definitely.
She didn't like Velma either.
With that, make sure you catch us next week on Thursday, same time at 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock on Thursday. Make sure that you join up with us. And again, follow, share with your friends, have fun with us, enjoy this podcast. If you do miss this podcast, you got 3 days online, and then it's going to be unlisted. And then you can actually watch the podcast via our Spotify list as well. With that, we usually get chaotic. We usually have fun talking shit about random shit, and we do our best job to be a good counsel group for you and to help you navigate watching these movies, as well as also all of the media that's out there. But nothing is as important as being able to have some type of reasoning behind it. So with that, we turn ourselves to JT, who is actually the voice of reasoning. JT, what is that this week's voice of reasoning?
This week's voice is something I just learned today. This phrase, if it can be measured, it can be improved. Emotions are terrible measuring sticks, but they follow us around throughout our whole lives. And so remember, sometimes you have to step back and ask yourself, am I measuring with my emotions, or am I measuring objectively? Was recently having a conversation with my wife. She said, you always do X, Y, Z. And I said, hold on now, pause. Let's actually quantify how often that happens. And, it was out of the past year, this thing that always happens only happened, a handful of times, 1 to 3 times. So it actually was not all the time, even though it might have felt that way. And so we have to remember that emotions are not meant to be your measuring stick. You got to put the mugs to the side for a couple seconds. You got to look at things objectively. Now, that being said, you can't just get rid of emotions. They got to be processed. They got to be dealt with. So make sure you also set time to do that after you're done measuring. Sometimes you need to measure your emotions and see if they match up. But your emotions are like the engine to your car. Once you get pointed in the right direction, your emotions can drive you in that direction. The emotions are never supposed to be the steering wheel. If you let your emotions drive you, then you're going to end up crashing into a wall before you even leave the garage. So if it can be measured, it can be improved. And make sure to keep trying to improve everything you do. It's always now. And there'll be now later too, but it's always now. And so if you have anything that you need to start on, start now. Start now. And you'll see the improvements come when it's now later.